I can tan and I can be like less, my mom always says I look more Arab.
I would get told a lot that you're not really black.
I'm brown, I'm Mexican, and I do have a round face, so I don't see what the problem with that is.
When Latinas watch TV, they don't see the light all the way to the dark.
Colorism in U.S. American society implies a power dynamic between those who are basically white, so those who are whiter and lighter tend to have more privilege and power. They tend to see themselves, they have more representation, they are the standard of beauty and the standard of what we see in kind of media and pretty much everywhere around us in society.
I grew up in a very diverse Puerto Rican family. You know, my grandfather immigrated from Angola, Africa, and my grandmother's from Madrid, Spain. And she's she had red hair, and he was like dark, had a dark complexion, and they had 7 kids, and everybody in the spectrum of the 7 kids are different complexions.
My mom is is considerably darker than me, so I mean, even people wondering if she's my mom, and then with my dad, he's very light. Very, very fair skin. My daughter is a lot lighter than me, and my son is a lot darker than me.
In the home where I grew up with a sister who was pretty much white passing, white presenting. She looks like my mother, who is half white, so she comes off as a white woman. She is a white woman. And I grew up with a brown father and a brown brother. Growing up, I would look through magazines all the time. And it's like maybe 90% white, thin, able-bodied women.
Obviously, there's Black Latinos. Like, I never see them on TV, and it always bothers me because it's like, but I'm related to Afro-Latinos, so why isn't my mother or any of her relatives represented in that sense? Like, they all look the same. They all look, to me, every time I see a novella or anything on TV, everybody looks Italian.
I started believing the narrative like, oh, you know, I am lighter. I guess that is better. It did shape how I would present myself to the world in terms of either, like I said, the really straight hair, or if I went out to parties, you know, but I was younger then, you know, just the short dresses, because that's what you saw.
Sofia Vergara, you know, the Colombian actress from Modern Family. I think that, you know, when she first blew up and first came out, I remember going to auditions and people would be like, hey, can you do Sofia's accent? I'm like, well, I'm not from Colombia, I'm from New Jersey. But she's a big factor in how people view Latinas, you know, with this thick accent and a hot head, and she's like super sexy, and her hair is coiffed, and she's always on point with her makeup. So people kind of lump us all like in this, like, we're super hot, exotic. I mean, we are super hot, but
I remember when I was a kid thinking that I really wanted to be an actress, and I would think, if I could be an actress, then I could be on Friends. And I remember thinking, like, how could I ever be on Friends? Like, how would a brown girl fit in on this show? And I remember actively sitting and thinking about, like, okay, what role could I play? Like, maybe one of them would have like a maid and I'd be their daughter. And I don't know why that's where my mind went, but it's just like, maybe someone would find a kid on the street and they'd need to watch them, and like I would be that person. And it's like really strange that that's where my mind went, but I just didn't see myself being represented or being able to be on a show like that without being portrayed as a brown stereotype and not being a normal character. That wasn't in the cards to me. So
much image damage and so much like loathing of self comes from watching stuff on TV and seeing like a beautiful Scandinavian woman and saying, I'll never look like her because she's thin and she's blonde and she looks a certain way. Well, yeah, no, you're never gonna look like her. You look like yourself, and you should love who you are and embrace who you are.
We know that darker Latinos are out there. So who are they looking up to? Who do they see? How do they understand and learn about self-love and what they're able to do. We all talk about that children and people in general need role models. They need to see people who look like them. They need to walk into a doctor's office and say, oh, I can do that. That's why we, push for women to be in every aspect of the workforce. It's the same concept. We have to see people who look like us to help us change the narrative around what we can and can't do.
I think it's important for people who are not Latinos to see other cultures so they can understand us.
If that's all they've seen, then they don't even know that they should care. They don't even understand that there's a problem. That's kind of what I think about when I think about colorism now, is when are the appropriate times to have these conversations, and who is the appropriate person to speak on it? And we need to be very aware of that going forward.